Year is coming up this week, and that makes this our last show for 2024. It's a time to look back at the big stories in South Mississippi that happened this year.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably spend 3 hours on this, but we kind of condensed the list. It's a year filled with development, the return of oystering in Mississippi waters, and loss. And
the year got started really on a terrible note when the deputy was murdered in George County. Deputy Jeremy Malone there. He was making essentially a routine traffic stop, and it crossed multiple county lines, and he ended up getting killed over the traffic stop.
Yeah, it ended up, there was an altercation there. I think it was near a convenience store or a dollar store. Then after the shooting happened, then there was a countywide, a couple of counties, multi-county search. The suspect was arrested. But when you see these, I've covered many of these, and you have
unfortunately, we both have, Bill.
Right. I mean, it's too many of them, and you go into a different mode when you're covering it, but it never really gets easier when you see this. This is a guy who had a family and, was very involved in the community. You still see some of the effects of him as far as charities and things like that still going on. So start out with a big loss there, but you always appreciate the way the law enforcement here in South Mississippi comes together.
They always come together. It's always monumental when you see the law enforcement come together for those funerals and how they're all supportive of one another. And unfortunately, this was just the latest reminder of the dangers of that job.
You never know.
We get notifications from the Department of Public Safety about officer-involved shootings, and we get them regular.
Yes,
I mean, it comes almost weekly that there's some kind of an officer-involved shooting around the state.
Unfortunately, it really is when you think about that. It could be here, it could be up in the northern part of the state, and you always kind of cringe a little bit. You're hoping it's not there, but those are tough things to deal with.
It is, and also really a horrifying story we covered during the summer. Around 4th of July, we got the word that Lauren Johansson, a young 22-year-old girl, had been brutally murdered, and her body was found in a wooded area near a cemetery in Harrison County.
Yeah, it was awful, and of course it was a domestic kind of that dragged out for a while. And the suspect, Bryson Rivers, was found there in Harrison County. We had that video of the sheriff's department and others kind of tracking him down and bringing him in without much of an incident. But it was awful covering this. Another one of those. You never get used to these type of things. And here's a young lady in a prime of her life cut down, and that was a tough one as well.
Yeah, and it brought a spotlight to people because her accused killer, Bryson Rivers, who was her boyfriend, he was out of jail, and he had not registered properly for his tracking device, and he was able to leave the area. He had been in jail in Tennessee and was able to move into Mississippi. He should not have been able to. And then so that brought a spotlight to that issue, and we'll see. That won't be the latest the last we hear of that. In 2025 we will have Buc-ee's coming to Harrison County on I-10. Here's a view. You see the construction there. It's really coming along, starting to happen quickly. We don't have an exact opening date, but it's going to be sometime in the spring or early summer.
Well, most of everybody here in South Mississippi has either been the one over when you turn to go at Orange Beach in Alabama or some other places, and it's basically a giant gas station on steroids. You can find anything in there, from swimsuits to food. They also talk about how clean their bathrooms are. So it's one of those must-stop things for people traveling through. Going to bring in some jobs, but also an economic additive that's really going to help the county.
A lot of money is going to be dropped right there off of the interstate. And as far as what it means, the county and state pumped in millions of dollars to make this project possible with the renovations to Minge and the interchange there, the new construction of the bridge. A lot went into making this happen, and then we're all starting to see it coming together. There is some growing pains in their area. We covered and talked to business owners there who basically had their business cut off for a while, but they'll see the benefits of Buc-ee's when it opens here coming up in 2025. Another big opening we saw, and the coast is known for tourism and activities coming here, but this was a big one in Jackson County in Gaucher. It had been talked about for a number of years, and I think that was the opening night there of the Sound Amphitheater.
Casey and the Sunshine Band there at the Sound Amphitheater, and a great way to kick that off. And we've seen some bigger name artists perform there, and we're going to see some more down the road. And when you talk about the tourism, it fits right in with what the mission is in South Mississippi, to come, relax, have a good time, and see some good music and also some good acts there. And what a way to kick that off. Little Casey and the Sunshine Band.
7,000 seats. 7,000 seats
that's
there
pretty good.
At the Sound Amphitheater. We saw the return of oyster season. It had been since 2019 when we had the Bonnie Carey Spillway opening, basically obliterated the oyster industry, did serious damage to the seafood industry. But this year we saw a comeback.
Yeah, we did. There was actually a lot happening at the oyster reefs, and the thing that kept it going was some of that off-bottom aquaculture. But seeing the oyster reefs come back to life, that's huge, and hopefully that'll continue. That's where the Mississippi Sound Coalition comes in, trying to make sure there's no more freshwater intrusion there.
Yeah, and they're hoping for a bigger season, more oysters to come next year. And we saw a change in emergency response services across South Mississippi. This had been talked about for a while, really frustration with response times of ambulance service around in Harrison County and the communities all through the county, and also in Hancock County. As a result, we saw in Gulfport, Biloxi, those cities took action, brought in a new provider. Pafford and Acadia is now serving the county, as well as Long Beach and Pass Christian.
Yeah, it was a definite change from what we saw in the past. Those came in, they had their presentations, and all those municipalities and counties liked them. So that's what you see now. You see Pafford and Acadia here as far as EMS and ambulance service in South Mississippi.
So that was a lot to follow this year, and we will have more coming up in 2025. Yeah. That's what we're here to keep you informed of what's happening here at WLOX. And speaking of keeping you informed, we have an update on what's happening in the city of Biloxi coming up next. Mayor Fofo Gillich joins us for a look back at 2024 in Biloxi.
And I look forward to see what's coming next year.